Hi, I'm Joshua Coombe, and this is my textual analysis for the short film Code 8. The first scene of Code 8 that I'm going to be analysing is the scene where basically the main character, the main protagonist, is waking up either his son or his brother or something like that. Basically, the first shot that we see is a close-up of the bills. He's just flicking through his bills, you know, like eviction notices, things like that. And this basically backs up, you know, the fact that people living with powers are actually in poverty, as it says in the first little bit of the short film. Also, the what I must point out is the calm music in the background. It's ironic, really, because it's almost peaceful, and that is not what these people with powers are living like. They are not living peacefully. They are constantly have the worry of bills, eviction notices, discrimination against them, getting paid very little for a lot of work, and it's just ironic. It's just not what they are living like at all. The next bit I'm going to be pointing out is after he's looked at all of the bills, he basically wakes up this child, again probably a son or a brother. I'm thinking probably a brother. And it's the way that he's sort of playfully getting him up. It kind of, to me, it means like he's trying to hide his emotions almost, hide his worries from his little brother or son. Like I said, probably a brother. It's like he's trying to hide his emotions, hide his worries of the discrimination, the poverty, the bills, the police brutality towards them, everything that they are living with. It's sort of like he's trying to hide it away so that his little brother can't see this, can't see what he's really feeling and how worried he actually is. What I must point out is, especially in this first scene, well, it sort of runs throughout really, there is a lot of freehand camera and like shaky camera movements, and this also could portray the main protagonist's feelings. So shaky camera means like always on edge, kind of shaky about everything, like he's worried, he's confused, and again it just all relates back to this idea that people with powers are living with poverty, which at this point we don't actually know if he's got powers or not, but we kind of have, you know, a suspicion. Then we get a dog barking when they're brushing their teeth. It's a real juxtaposition against the nice, calm and peaceful music that we get in the background, and it sort of makes you feel like, with the peaceful music, it kind of feels like it's almost like a dream, you know, like when he's with his family and when he's with his little brother, nothing else really matters. And then you get this dog bark, and it's that aggressive sound, you know, sort of running over these this really nice peaceful music, and it's sort of like a back to reality sort of feeling for him, and it also gives the idea that the area that he's living in is probably a rough area due to the poverty, kind of like I'm guessing kind of like a ghetto, but for people with powers, and I have the feeling that it's overpopulated and it's very busy. Then we see a close-up of him cooking toast over the hob, and the fact that he's not using a toaster kind of also backs up my point that maybe he is living in poverty. The fact that he doesn't have a toaster and probably can't afford one, I'm guessing. The fact that he's cooking it over the hob suggests that he is actually very poor. And then when he puts the toast down for his little brother, He then starts walking towards his nan and the TV, and then we get a lot of tracking shots to establish that he is actually our main character, and at this point we know that for sure that he is definitely our main protagonist for this short film. And then there is no doubt in our minds who the main character is. We are sure that this is him. Then we get shots of the TV where the news is on, and they're talking about very common issues, being that people with powers are criminals and things like this. It actually points out that
gunshots rang out late last night near Monument Park as police gunned down a telekinetic man during an attempted robbery.
So basically, they don't take these things lightly against people with powers. It's sort of like they don't really give them a chance. And the way that the news presenter is talking about these issues, it makes it sound like this is a very common thing that happens. And we get a lot of reverse shot of our main character's reactions to him watching the news of this telekinetic bank robber that's actually been shot dead. And, you know, he's sort of like surprised, worried, things like that. Alright, so the second scene that I'm going to be analysing is basically when they're outside waiting for this person to show up to potentially get a job. The first thing we see is an establishing shot, and the establishing shot is all of these guys sat on this curb, just sat down waiting. You know, it's in a big car park, and we also get music in the background, which gives you the typical, you know, like the hood stereotype. This sort of music that you would find stereotypically in America and the big cities, and in like ghettos, things like that. And basically this music runs throughout until actually the person in the truck turns up, giving people jobs. Basically you can see that it's very hot there, and our main character actually has a cloth or a towel over his head to keep him cool. And he actually says,
"It's hot as hell out here, man."
And basically all we see is him with the cloth over his head, and then we see his friend, who is we don't know his name, but we know that he is a class 2 Bron. Basically he asks the man that can manipulate fire to light him a cigarette, and we see that in the shot. And our main character and the Bron, we very quickly realise that they are actually very close friends, the way that they're talking to each other, things like this. And then after this, the truck turns up of the person giving away jobs, and basically our main character says,
"A lot of guys today, man."
And his friend the Bron says,
"Don't worry about it. I get us in."
And this sort of makes me think that there is a lot of poverty with people with powers, because we establish that all of these people that are trying to get this job, that are sat on this pavement in the car park waiting for someone to turn up, we get this idea that there is a lot of poverty because they've all got powers, and they're all in the same boat basically, and they're all sat out in the baking hot sun, which actually I don't think they mind, because I think it's sort of like a break for them. You know, they don't get to relax much because of their situation with finances, things like this. So I think that this is a nice little relaxing period, and they kind of don't want to get this job because they are enjoying sitting out in the sun so much. However, they know that they do need the money. So basically this is why our main character is a little bit worried about getting a job, and then our friend the Bron says, "Don't worry about it, I'll get us in," which also is quite a sick message really, because he's basically going to use his powers of strength to push his way through the crowd to get to the front of the crowd, to basically get him and our main character a job. As our two main characters are walking towards the van, we can see the rest of the group of people with powers who have actually run after the truck, trying to get, you know, in front of the queue for the job basically. And we see this huge crowd of people around this truck, and all of them with powers, like I said. And our two main characters are sort of like held back and they're way back behind the crowd. And basically, our friend the Bronze says,
Hey, get behind the brawn.
and this means that he's gonna force his way through the crowd, and that he's gonna get our main character through to the front of the queue as well. We also tell that the powers that our characters have, some of them are a little bit more secret than others, and we realise this when they first get to the front of the queue, and the first thing he says is
Class 2 brawn.
and we establish at this point that every person with powers also has sort of tiers to their powers. I'm guessing Class 1 is sort of like the basic level, Class 2 is advanced, and so on and so on. And he's kind of the guy giving away jobs is kind of surprised when our friend the Bron here turns up and says, you know, get behind the Bron to our main character, and the person giving away the jobs says, at which point we see the shot of the Bron picking up the car, which I think he's basically showing him his powers. So the guy giving away the job says to the Bron,
"Okay, you're in."
And they get into the truck, and then our main character goes to the front of the truck, and he doesn't say anything about his powers whatsoever. All he says is
Certified electrician.
and that, you know, he can get the job done, things like this. The guy giving away the job says,
"You special or not?"
and he says,
You need an electrician or not?
and basically he actually gets the job because of this, because the guy giving away the job says,
"No, you look at my guy cold and sick."
which kind of gives me the feeling that he doesn't want to tell anyone about his powers. For whatever reason, we are unsure. But what we do find out later on in the short film is what sort of powers he does possess. And after this, they drive away to this next job. Alright, so the third scene I'll be looking at is basically the scene where they're using their powers to help build this house. What I must point out, which I should have pointed out a lot earlier in the video actually, is the fact that all of these people with powers, in our society nowadays, you know, we hear stories of people with powers, like in comic books, things like that, and they all have, you know, costumes, they look very heroic, they're always looked up to. But in our short film Code 8, our people with the powers, they don't wear heroic clothes at all, they don't wear costumes, things like this, and they are not very much looked up to. In fact, it's the complete opposite. They do not get looked up to at all. But like I said, the third scene is of the people with powers using their powers to help build this house, and it's much more efficient to use a couple people with powers than what it would be to use hundreds of people, maybe use it without powers. And it's this point that basically I think it's very confusing, because you would think that if one person can do the job of, say, 10 people in half the time, you know, that would be a lot more well respected, and they're just not. And I think this is where Code 8 gets a little bit confusing as to why exactly they are in poverty and why they are, you know, picked on, basically. Like I said, the first shot that we see in this scene is the man that can manipulate fire. He's actually cutting some steel pipes with his finger, and basically we get a close-up of this. It's a low-angle shot. We don't actually see his face until the pipes are actually cut off, and then we see a close-up of his face. Basically, at this point, we know, you know, they're going to be doing a good job. This is then further proven by the fact that the next shot is actually an over-the-shoulder shot of a telekinetic man that's moving all of these this roofing, just using his mind. Basically, he's moving it from the floor and he's putting it all in the right places on the roof. I mean, he's doing in, like, say 5 minutes what like 10 men could do in a couple of hours. And basically this is why I get very confused with Code 8, and I think it gets very interesting, because they are discriminated against, and I am unsure why. And I'm sure anyone else that has seen this film will also be thinking about this. Why exactly are they discriminated against? Anyway, after this we get a close-up of our friend the Bron lifting up a rock, and then we get a nice wide-angle shot after this of basically our Bron again holding the rock, but we see many other rocks, and these are big rocks, like boulders almost, and we see how many more boulders he has to move, and it's like it doesn't matter to him. It's easy for him. I mean, he's lifting up a boulder which people without powers would probably have to use a crane or something for. Okay, so the fourth and final scene that I'll be looking at is it's actually a really, really long scene, so I've just basically analysed a small section of it, and it's at the very, very peak of this scene that I'll be analysing. The first thing we see is our main character is actually resisting arrest, and this is due to the fact that he threw a brick through the person that was giving the jobs away. He threw a brick through his car window, and basically just a small crime, the police have then tracked him down and they're going to take him in, and he feels discriminated against. The fact that all he did was throw a brick at a window, and he actually points out to this police officer that
man, a smashed window's nothing to what we deal with every fucking day.
And I think this is quite an important message, really. But basically, it's the main character resisting arrest, and then he pushes the police officer backwards. We actually see two police officers. One of them, we get the impression, is doesn't like people with powers whatsoever, and the other one is actually kind of sympathetic to people with powers. And we get a lot of respect for this police officer that has a lot of powers, because if you actually watch the film, in this last scene, there is nothing that he does to inflict pain on these people with powers. He is just basically playing it by the book, and he's being very sympathetic towards them, as sympathetic as he can be. And he's actually the person that says to the main character,
You still broke the law, I have to take you in.
which he doesn't really want to, but like I said, because he's playing it by the book, he knows that is exactly what he should do. So he's just basically almost politely saying, we're going to need to take you in. And it's this police officer that our main character pushes, which I think is very unfair in a way, but I guess just in the moment of sheer panic and him just not wanting to go to the station, he just gets very angry, and the whole situation gets very heated very quickly, and he just pushes the police officer. But as soon as he's pushed this police officer, he takes a step back to sort of calm the situation down, and then the other police officer steps in, who we don't like at all, because he's very discriminating against people with powers. He comes straight in and punches our main character in the face. And I mean, this is police brutality at its peak. I mean, you can't just punch someone in the face. And basically we get a little bit of a struggle here, and we get a lot of close-ups of our main character's arms trying to break his way free. We get a lot of close-ups of his face, where this police officer that's discriminating against him has actually got him to the floor, and he's pressing his face against the floor, and we can see that our main protagonist is actually in a lot of pain by this, and we get a lot of close-ups of his facial expressions. And basically all of this scene again is all freehand camera, and it's very fitting for the scene. We get a lot of quick editing also, and basically this quick editing and freehand camera operation basically portrays the nature of the scene, where it's a little bit scrappy, a little bit panicky, things like this. And basically we then see the Bron pick this police officer off his friend, our main character, and he just throws him at this car window, which we can tell takes a very huge amount of strength to just throw someone. And yeah, we actually see him throw this police officer at this car, and then we get a shot through the window actually of this police officer flying towards the car and smashing into it. And we see the Bron, after he's thrown this police officer to the car, we see him turn around, and it's this very, very quick shot which would probably go unnoticed, which is, I think, very significant, because we get basically a long shot over the shoulder of our Bron, and then we see the robot police officers in the background, and it's a very shallow focus, and this could portray how he's now worried and he's confused, and then as he turns around, he sort of gets this anagnosis of the fact that he's probably going to, you know, get shot or get injured or something like this. At that point, we get a close-up of the robots, which are further down the street, which have told them to stop, freeze, things like this. The robot police officers, we get a close-up of them raising up their weapons, and then without hesitation they just open fire on this Bron, and he gets shot a lot of times. Going back to this shot of the robot police officers, it's a two-shot and it's also a mid-shot, and we see them just open fire on our friend the Bron, and we then get the drone camera, which is like a sort of a bird's eye view, and this shot is pointing down at our two main characters, our main character over the Bron, trying to, you know, like comfort him, get him medical attention, things like this, and then the nice police officer and the bad police officer. The bad police officer on the floor after just getting thrown out of a car, and the nice police officer just doing what our main character is doing, but to this bad police officer. And basically it's a bird's eye view, and we get, I don't know, some voice from dispatch maybe.
Shots fired! Shots fired! 1078s are active!
All units
One
in Zone
suspect
5,
down!
144 Liberty. Confirmed.
And basically it's at this point that we realise exactly what has happened, and we sort of take a step back and we think, how has things escalated this quickly from getting a brick thrown at a window to someone getting shot? I think it's a very important message that discrimination against anyone is a huge thing, and it's very unfair, and it can all happen so quickly like it did in this short film Code. Also after this, we see our main character display his powers for the first time, and he basically has electrical powers, and he sends out this huge EMP, and it means all of these robot police officers get shut down. All of these drones come crashing out of the air, and it's just manic basically. And then we get the voice from dispatch again saying,
Drone down, drone
What's going
down.
on with my controls?
EMP fired at 144
anyone else hearing
Liberty.
this?
Suspect is a high-level
151,
electric.
2 miles out.
Proceed with
Copy,
extreme
106
caution.
responding.
2 miles out.
151, 2 miles out, 182 on.
so at this point we assume that he is higher than class 2, which our friend the Bron was. He was a class 2 Bron, remember? The fact that he's saying that it's a high level suggests that he's, you know, level 3, 4, 5 maybe. And again, we're still slightly confused by how the classing system works, but we realise that he actually does have a huge amount of power, and it's at this point that we respect our main character very highly, because he basically didn't use his powers at all. He hasn't displayed his powers throughout the whole film, even considering the situation that he was in. It was only when he got very upset at his friend the Bron actually getting shot, and he turned that sadness into anger, and he just sent out this huge EMP which just obliterated every electronical thing in sight. And then we see our the good cop stand up and point his gun at him, and then standoff between the good cop and our main character, the high-level electric. We see the electric flowing through his body into his hands, and he stands there and he just looks at this good police officer, and he just shakes his head and runs off. And then basically we realise that the good cop could have easily shot the high-level electric, our main character, as he was running away, but instead he just lowers his weapon, and It's at this point that we get even more respect for this good police officer, because he's extremely sympathetic for people living in these conditions, very sympathetic for people with powers, and we get a lot of respect for him because although his partner's just been badly injured, he realises that his partner's been thrown at a car, but our main character's best friend, the Bron, has just been shot, and it was the police's fault. What's worse, getting, thrown at a car or actually getting shot dead? It's at this point that he sums up the situation and he just thinks, this is unfair. And he lowers his gun down and he lets our high-level electric get away. Alright, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed my textual analysis of Code 8. And I hope to see you again soon in another video.